the deadly wooden bucket. Throughout history, empires have clashed over land, gold, power, and sacred beliefs. Millions of lives have been laid down for crowns, borders, and gods. But in the year 1325, two Italian city-states waged a bloody, full-scale war that left over 2,000 soldiers dead on the battlefield. And the prize they fought for? A single wooden bucket. It sounds like a ridiculous joke, but the battle that followed became one of the largest military engagements in all of medieval Europe. Welcome back to Forgotten Mysteries. Chapter 1. A Divided Nation. To understand how a basic household item caused an absolute bloodbath, we have to travel back to northern Italy in the 14th century. Now, Italy wasn't a unified country back then. It was a chaotic patchwork of fiercely independent city-states torn apart by a vicious geopolitical rivalry. On one side, you had Bologna, loyal allies of the Pope, known as the Guelphs. Just 30 miles away sat Modena, sworn supporters of the Holy Roman Emperor, the Ghibellines. For over a century, these two neighboring cities lived in constant conflict. Small border skirmishes, night raids, and political assassinations were practically a daily routine. Northern Italy was a powder keg, just waiting for the smallest spark. And in November of 1325, that spark was carried out in the dead of night. Chapter 2. The Heist. Under the cover of darkness, a small squad of Modenese soldiers slipped past the guards and through the gates of Bologna. They weren't there to assassinate a nobleman. They weren't trying to loot the city's gold vault. Instead, they walked right up to a public well in the city center, unhooked a heavy oak bucket filled with town property, and casually trotted back across the border into Modena. To the Modenese, this was the ultimate prank, a hilarious, deeply humiliating middle finger to their arrogant neighbors. They took the stolen bucket and proudly hung it in Modena's town hall for the entire city to laugh at. Bologna, however, was not laughing. Chapter 3. The Battle of Zappolino. Outraged by the insult, Bologna demanded the immediate return of their bucket. Modena refused. So, Bologna did what any reasonable medieval power would do. They raised a massive army of 30,000 infantry and 2,000 cavalry. Modena could only scrape together 7,000 men in total. Outnumbered nearly 5-1, the Modenese were, by all logic, completely doomed. The two forces collided at sunset near the town of Zappolino. What should have been a quick, decisive victory for Bologna turned into absolute chaos. Despite the overwhelming odds, Modena's heavy cavalry smashed through Bologna's front lines. Panic rippled through the Bolognese army, turning 30,000 men into a chaotic, fleeing mob. In a matter of hours, the battlefield was quiet. Over 2,000 men lay dead, all over a stolen piece of wood. Chapter 4. The Ultimate Insult. The Modenese didn't stop there. They chased the retreating Bolognese army all the way back to their city walls. Instead of laying siege, Modena decided to throw a massive victory party right outside Bologna's front gates, drinking, singing, and mocking their trapped enemies. And just to rub salt in the wound, Modenese soldiers walked up to another well outside the walls, stole a second bucket, and paraded it in front of the city. Eventually, a peace treaty was signed. Modena returned the lands and towns they had captured during the fight, but they held onto the original bucket. If you visit the city of Modena today, step inside the Palazzo Comunale. There, hanging safely inside the basement vault, sits that exact same wooden bucket, kept as a proud trophy of war for over 700 years. It remains a bizarre, fascinating monument to human nature, a reminder of how pride, politics, and a stolen well bucket once started a war that cost thousands of lives. If you enjoyed this weird dive into forgotten history, hit that like button and subscribe to Forgotten Mysteries. Now, I want to hear from you. What's the strangest, most absurd historical event you've ever heard of? Drop in the comments below, and we might cover it in the next episode. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.